Welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Mare, and we're breaking down the world of pro wrestling.
From the eyes of a smart fan.
And a casual fan, and everyone in between.
Whether you're a lifelong fan
or just getting into it,
you've got a ringside seat with us.
All right, everybody, welcome to part 2 of our Elimination Chamber recap. We're going to kick off the show talking about the 2025 Elimination Chamber, and we'll finish it up by talking about our predictions for the 2026 Elimination Chamber coming up this Saturday.
We get to Elimination Chamber, and suddenly the vibe shifts again.
Because 2025 isn't about firsts, it's not about validation, it's about spectacle. Now you've got The Rock involved, you've got John Cena circling the chamber in what feels like a legacy mode, and somehow Travis Scott is a part of the conversation. That's not evolution, that's escalation.
2018 said the chamber is for everyone, and 2025 said the chamber is a global event.
Elimination Chamber 2025. This was the 15th Elimination Chamber event and took place on Saturday, March 1st of 2025 at Rogers Centre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, held for wrestlers from the promotion's Raw and SmackDown brand divisions, featuring one wrestler from WWE's developmental brand NXT. The event saw the returns of Randy Orton and Jade Cargill and was notable for Cena's heel turn, as well as being his final Elimination Chamber appearance and last pay-per-view and live streaming event appearance in Canada as an in-ring performer. We open up the match with the Women's Chamber match. It's a number one title contendership match. Meltzer gave this 4.5 stars. Bianca Belair picked up the win against Alexa Bliss, Bayley, Liv Morgan, Naomi, and Roxanne Perez in 29 minutes and 15 seconds. Now, before we could even get the match started, Jade Cargill comes out and beats the shit out of Naomi while Bianca Belair is trapped in her cell and beside herself crying. How you guys felt about this chamber match? It was not my favorite. I'm not a Jade Cargill fan, and I don't know, it just felt random to me. But Steve, go ahead, break it down for us.
So yeah, this was Jade's big return from the very long storyline of who took Jade out and left her, beat to a pulp on a car. And everybody assumed it was Liv and Raquel. And lo and behold, it was Naomi. And she took Naomi out of the match. Didn't take her place, just beat her down, and she got stretchered off. But to me, the big standout in this was, I feel this was Liv Morgan's coming out party. She had a lot of appearances and she had big moments, but I feel like this is when her star power really stepped up and showed that she could carry a match, she could lead a match, and to me, that was the biggest thing coming out of this, because since then, she's really taken this division over. I think right now she's the top of the top in WWE's women. And when she got the hair whip while she was climbing up the chamber, that was a huge viral moment, and it made her look like a badass. And it set her up for the run that she's on right now.
Yeah. I really thought this match was put together very, very well. They added that storyline at the beginning. They take out Naomi. Liv is on cloud 9. Even though she, in storyline didn't do anything, she was terrified as Jade's walking down the ramp, or I guess they didn't have a ramp there, down the Long Aisleway rather. But and then Jade gets in the ring and just takes out Naomi. Bianca's beside herself inside her pod. And then it's announced that Naomi's not medically cleared and she's out. So, I mean, just the beginning of that match, not even the match, just before the match, I mean, that sets the tone. And you had a lot of really good spots in this match. You had a lot of really good workers in this match. The crowd was new to Roxanne Perez, but Steve and I have been watching Roxanne Perez for years as Roxy, and Ring of Honor on the independents. I mean, she was a baby when she started. I think she started at 18 years old, if I'm not mistaken. She's awesome. You know, Alexa had just come back. Bailey is Bailey. Bailey's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. You know, Bianca is fantastic, as we talked about, just a pure athlete. This match was great. I mean, all these girls worked hard. They had awesome spots. I mean, I know you probably didn't like it for the reasons that you know, kind of stated it. You know, you're not a fan of Jade and everything and how the match got started. But when you put that aside, that really didn't factor into the match. You know, that was just a storyline thing at the beginning. So when you remove that part of it, yes, it did take a person out of the match, but I mean, once the match went, I mean, I thought all the girls were awesome. So that was kind of my whole take on it. I mean, they were on cue, like they didn't really nothing was really botched. I mean, those girls, they worked hard and they delivered awesome match.
That was the best thing Jade's done in WWE, I think.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, no doubt.
I liked so a couple of things I did notice is I don't know if at this time I'm assuming at this point Liv had already stolen Dom from Rhea
That
because she
happened
had
at WrestleMania.
okay, yeah, so her gear was like a nod to Dom and I really liked that. I did like how she was teasing the other girls when she came in, which they all do that in the chamber. They all tease, taunt, you know, whatever. But her personality was like she's just really good at the character she plays, and she has this like huge expressive mouth, and she's like bah, you know, like she's just obnoxious and she knows it, and it works for her, and that's her character, and I noticed that. I did like that. And then the other thing I noticed is that Roxanne Perez was like more outgoing. I feel like just comparing this couple of minutes in the beginning of the match to who she is in the Judgment Day now, I feel like she's a very muted character. I feel like she's too docile or something. Like she just had, I didn't see a ton of it, but she just had so much more personality and she was more outgoing. And I think that I miss that Roxanne. You know, she's not the same to me as she was then. And
That's that's the idea for Roxanne, you know, because she's playing second fiddle to the other two girls in the Judgment Day, but that could eventually set up the big turn where she takes that larger role and really showcases. I mean, she's a fantastic wrestler, and you got to see that in this match. And you know, I think she's still under 25 years old.
she's
So
23.
yeah, so her future is very bright in WWE.
Then we had a tag team match. Tiffany Stratton and Trish Stratus defeat Candice LeRae and Nia Jax in 11 minutes and 41 seconds. I do vaguely remember the pairing of Trish Stratus and Tiffany Stratton. What did they call them? They had a
Tiffy and Trishy.
oh, yeah, Tiffy and Trishy. But Steve, how did you feel about this match? I mean, Candice LeRae, you know, how did you feel about it? It seems like a weird pairing to me, but I didn't watch this match. I've watched it, but I didn't watch it recently.
So at this time, Candace and Nia were together as like a little group, and Candace was like the little yes woman for Nia, and Tiffy was with them for a while, but Tiffy turned on Nia when she cashed in Money in the Bank and won the title.
I do remember that.
And this was huge for Trish because it was in Toronto. She's from Toronto. And, you know, Trish looks better than she's ever looked. She can still go. And her and Tiffy was a great pairing together. Joe, I wanted to ask you a question about this. Is Candice LeRae the biggest letdown as far as a woman signing in WWE? Because I feel, man, when she was signing, had she gone to AEW, and I totally get the being with Johnny and, you know, for their personal lives, being together on the same show, traveling together probably makes it easier. But man, when she was coming off the indies, if she would have went to AEW, I think she could have taken the spot that Thunder Rosa got and carved out a niche because her PWG run and those matches she was having with the Young Bucks, man, she could have been something special in AEW.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I don't know that she was the biggest, you know, bust signing. You know, she had a nice little run in NXT with Johnny and Tommaso and that whole feud, and they were back and forth with as a team. I'm actually surprised to a point that, you know, she got called up when Vince McMahon was still in charge. I know Trish is small. Candace is smaller, than Trish, and Trish is tiny. So I think it's a testament to how good she is as a worker. Has she been presented the best? Not at all. I would think she could do a lot better, and I agree. She probably could have held a world title, in AEW. But your points are valid, Steve. I think, had the times been a little bit different, or if, Johnny would have went the other way, she could have done a lot of good things in AEW for sure. But she's still a solid hand. I mean, that's why she's still around. And Triple H worked with her closely, obviously with the Johnny and Tommaso feud. She had some good matches in NXT as well, and she's had some nice showings on the main roster. She's always in the Rumble. If I think she's been in a few chambers. So I mean, she's always a go-to
But
with
you
them.
never
So
expect her to win a title. Like if she was
no,
given a title match, you
no.
would be like
Yeah.
0% chance of winning. But in AEW, she could have, when they were first starting out, like,
Oh yeah.
are you going to push Candice LeRae? You're going to push the bunny. Like
Yeah.
that's,
Right.
you
Exactly. Yeah.
know,
Yep.
imagine like early AEW Rio versus Candice LeRae, that feud.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I remember her in like all those matches with the Bucks and like KO, and like she's bleeding, having
yeah,
matches with the guys. It was,
yeah.
she's so underrated as a performer. It's crazy.
I
Listen,
mean, she could have even did the cutest little tag team gimmick with Joey Ryan if he didn't, get canceled.
that would
They could have even done that.
that would have never worked in WWE.
No, and they,
Yeah,
no.
they love Joey Ryan. Like he was over, like
Yeah.
OVER, like
Hmm.
big time. Like I remember like going to indie show in Enfield with Blitzkrieg Pro, and he was there. Orange Cassidy was there, and Little Guido was there. And at intermission, Joey Ryan was in the ring, $50 for a photo in the ring with him, and the line was the whole 30-minute intermission. So
Yeah.
he was making bank, but yeah, they were a great team, a great pairing. They did, a lot of good business together, but that got ruined. But she could go.
Yeah. Still can. Yeah.
Then we had an unsanctioned match between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens picks up the win, 27 minutes and 35 seconds. Meltzer gave this a 5-star rating. Now, I don't know which time this was where they were like, we're not friends again, but then they're friends again. You know what I mean? But I don't really remember a ton of this match. Steve, I know Kevin Owens, he's your guy. He's probably one of your all-time favorites. Why don't you talk to us about this match? How'd you feel about it? Do you agree with that rating, 5 stars?
I mean, all their matches are 5 stars, dating back to Ring of Honor. Two of my favorite guys of all time. I remember, Joe, you listened to me rant and rave about how these two should have been in WWE back in like 2010, and people thought I
Yeah.
was insane. Like they're never gonna put Kevin Steen in basketball shorts on WWE TV, and here he is, 10 plus years in WWE, was champ for almost a year and won every title. He's been the man. Sammy, you know.
Headlined WrestleMania against Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah. And Sammy, I've loved Sammy forever.
He's El Generico.
Yeah. I mean, these guys were two of the reasons I really got in the Ring of Honor was them. And, Owens and Steen. I bought so many Kevin Owens shirts. It's disgusting because every time he'd get a new one, I'd have to buy a new one. And yeah, this was a fantastic match. They went all out because they're both in Canada. They're best friends. They trust each other. They've done it a million times. And I mean, I could watch them if they're given the time and letting them, do what they want with no handcuffs, they're going to go all out. And this was no different. And I can't wait for Kevin Owens to come back if he's able to come back. And I'm still hoping one day we can see an El Generico return, even if it's for one match. Like, especially with the AAA deal, like if he showed up at Triple Mania as El Generico, that place would go insane. Like it would
Yeah.
be huge. And he speaks like 5 different languages, so it would be over anywhere. So I'm hoping for one day because I still have my El Generico shirt ready to go.
How did you feel about this match, Joe? Do you like these guys as much as Steve?
What's not to like, right? I mean, um, you have two guys that grew up in the business together. They're from Montreal area. Like Steve said, they speak multiple languages. They are best friends in real life. They know what they're doing in the ring. You know, they were brought up the old school traditional way. They were not, even though it's not a bad thing, like we talked about last week, they were brought up in the era where you had to prove yourself in the ring. You weren't handed a contract and, hey, we're going to train you from scratch. You know, these guys paid their dues the hard way, working the independent scene, you know, working all over the world. It was nothing short of an incredible match. I mean, 5 stars might not do it justice, to be honest with you. I mean, those guys beat the hell out of each other. And the thing is you can beat each other up with weapons and props and moves, but when you can tell a really good story doing all of that, that's what separates your top workers from, you know, your mid card. And these guys proved in that match why they are top stars. And if you, like Steve said, if you would have said this, you know, 20 years ago that Sami Zayn or El Generico and, you know, Kevin Steen were going to be major players in the WWE, you would have been laughed at. And actually, I remember one of our friends who I won't name on air, but when Steve said that, he's like, he's going to be a world champion in WWE one day, and laughed in Steve's face. And now, you know, Steve's right. And we still love that person. Yeah. I mean, and in all honesty, I mean, that opinion wasn't necessarily incorrect based on how Kevin Steen looked physically, you know, but his work is incredible. Sami Zayn, his work is incredible. These guys can tell stories, you know, they can do it in the ring. I mean, this match was like, and like you said, Mare, which time was this that they turned on each other? I don't even remember. They've been battling for years, back and forth. So it really doesn't matter, because you just know when you put those two in there together, whether they're on the same team or if they're against each other, you know you're going to get an incredible performance. So 5 stars, does it do it justice? It might have maybe a little bit higher, but it's correct. I mean, that was a fantastic match and performance. And then obviously you had the beatdown at the end, and then you had the Randy Orton return, which everyone loves Randy Orton. So, you know, the all around the whole segment was great.
Yeah, this era is Triple H and Shawn Michaels-esque feud.
Yeah,
I
no
think
doubt.
that for it to be a 5-star match is huge, because I mean, obviously I don't follow Meltzer as much as you guys do, but I do listen to him, and I feel like he doesn't hand out 5 stars to WWE very often. I feel like like Babe, we've talked about their sports. They're like AEW's a wrestling company, WWE's like a TV company, you know, and so like to get a match of that caliber on WWE seems like a rare thing, you know, these days. It's not, you know, the matches aren't as good as they could be, or 5-star worthy typically. And so to me, hearing that it's a 5-star match, you know, just speaks to like how incredible it was, because, you know, you hear 5-star matches. Kenny Omega and Swerve was like 5.25. So, you know, you don't get those kinds of matches in WWE typically. And so, you know, it's cool that they were able to have the time to put on a match of that caliber. All right, and then we get to the WWE title, Universal title #1 contendership elimination chamber match. So this was a relatively short pay-per-view. I guess this is kind of around the time they started shortening the pay-per-views, because it's already here. There's only like 4 matches. So we had John Cena picking up the win against CM Punk, Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, and Seth Rollins in 32 minutes and 36 seconds. You know, John Cena and Seth Rollins are the only two that were in the other chamber match that we broke down, you know, still going strong. I loved the Cena and CM Punk fight scene, you know, where they hug each other really big and then they start wailing on each other, and, you know, they really had, you know, some time to go at it while Seth Rollins was like rolling around on the other side of the ring. I loved seeing Drew McIntyre taunt CM Punk and like punching the chamber, and CM Punk, you could see his face, like he's legit pissed off. Like he does not like it. I feel like he's one of those people you can read his face pretty well, even, you know, when he's supposed to be acting. And then Logan Paul, you know, like for somebody that is a YouTube star, you know, like he's really made a career and a name for himself in the WWE, and he's having really big and incredible moments. Like he's been a part of so many things and so many huge moments in the WWE. So that was kind of like the takeaway that I got from the match. Whose turn is it? Is it yours, babe? Or Joe goes first? I think you went first last time. Did you, babe?
Yeah.
I can't keep up with who I asked to talk about it. So, Joe, what did you think of this match?
Probably one of your better men's chambers. Lots of good storytelling. They intertwined, Cena and Punk, Rollins and Punk, Drew and Punk, the disdain just in general for Logan Paul because he's, the outsider. You mix Priest in there, obviously. It was very well booked and laid out. You got really good veteran guys in there. I mean, Cena, Punk, you know, Rollins has been around for when you actually look and think about it, like Seth Rollins has been around for 20 years, give or take. So I mean, a lot of these guys have been around a long time. Drew's been around, since the late 2000s. So, just well booked veteran guys. They can make spots with Logan Paul look good, great athlete. I'm not a big fan of him and Jake, with all the celebrity boxing and things like that. But hey, good athletes, much respect. But yeah, I thought the match itself, they mixed in some old and new stuff. Obviously the actual main event, I think everyone kind of knew John was going to win his last chamber, and they were going to do Cody and Cena, which led into the actual main event, which was the post match with The Rock and Travis Scott and Cena and Cody. But the match itself was great. I mean, all of those guys worked hard. The spots were great. The storytelling was fantastic. How they interjected things, Cena and Punk teaming up to a point. Mare, like you said, they hugged it out there, and then they started beating the hell out of each other. And then Cena gets desperate there toward the end after the curb stomp when Seth was eliminated, and he hits Punk with the curb stomp as he's leaving the ring, and Cena grabs Punk and puts him in a choke, and he wins. So the storytelling was great. I mean, the match rating was perfectly fine with me. I mean, I probably would have went 5 with that, but I mean, great match overall. Like I said, one of the better men's chambers I think that we've ever seen. Definitely hands down better than the one we just reviewed in 2018, by far. So I'll let Steve take over from here.
Yeah, the match was good, but it was 1,000,000% overshadowed by what essentially happened and thereafter didn't happen with the post show. I mean, nobody knew what in the hell The Rock was talking about by wanting Cody's soul. We still don't know what the idea of that was. I think
We
he
haven't even seen him since then, The Rock.
there's and that's why I picked this one to review because of that whole thing. I mean, there's so many stories, there's so many reports. You probably won't know until like The Rock writes his version in a book and Cena writes his version in a book and Triple H writes his version in a book. But what I think happened was, one, Travis Scott had no business being in a wrestling ring. Maybe put down the blunts and, learn what you're doing. But he wrecked Cody's, orbital bone with that punch. And I think Triple H wasn't too happy with that because, you got your main guy going into the biggest, show of the year. And if he has a broken orbital bone, that could throw everything off. And, they wanted no part of that. I think The Rock didn't get what he wanted. So if he's not needed or wanted, like he said, he'll step back and not be involved. So I think he pulled a little bit of a Steve Austin and took his ball and went home because creative wasn't going a certain way. And, it's come out that Travis Scott wasn't putting in the effort needed to prepare for a potential mixed tag team match because it wasn't supposed to be Cena and Logan Paul teaming up together. It was supposed to be Cena and Travis Scott teaming up together. And that
Right.
never happened because Travis Scott was busy doing whatever the hell Travis Scott does. And it's just very fascinating, that power dynamic to see like how much power does The Rock really have with the TKO board? How much of a shot caller can he really flex? And at the same time, how much power does Triple H have? Does he really have final say? And Cody has some kind of say because he was originally the one they wanted to go heel, but he pulled a Hulk Hogan and said, "That doesn't work for me, brother." Triple H wasn't against that because Cody's moving major merch. And when you're moving major merch like that, you don't want to mess with that. That's why Vince never pulled the switch with Cena because he's a huge merch mover. and he makes that dividend in the positive. And at the end of the day, that's what Nick Khan's worried about, is that dividend, the stock price, and where are they making the most money. And that's with Cody as a babyface. So, Joe, what do you think about this whole fiasco and this disaster that was the after Rumble segment? I mean, or after Chamber segment.
Yeah, the initial post match, I thought, before learning everything that happened going forward, I thought was very well done, because we all assumed, and I don't mean the Travis Scott part, that was terrible, but everyone thought The Rock was going to be involved, going forward. The Travis Scott spot where he rabbit punched Cody was absolutely ridiculous. I'm surprised they gave him another chance to come back. And the stories that I heard was the final straw was, I think he no-showed an appearance, and they were just like, you know what, we're done with this guy. He's, he already hurt our champion. We're not going to go forward with him. So that was kind of the final straw from what I was reading and hearing. I don't know the structure or the hierarchy of who has the final say. I think from everything I hear from the people that actually know, you and I and Mare are just fans, but we read and listen. It sounds like Triple H does have the higher ground. Because like you said, The Rock wanted Cody to turn. Cody said no. They went with, and Triple H said no too. So they went with that mindset. I think overall, the Cena heel turn was a great idea, but I think they should have done it sooner. They should have maybe done it more toward the beginning of his comeback, because they kind of panicked once The Rock was like, I'm out. They had to turn him back. They couldn't retire him as a heel. It's John Cena. So I'm sure there was a lot of moving parts that we don't know about, and like you said, we might not ever know about them until some people write their books. But, I kind of get the vibe that this whole breakdown was almost like the Cody Rhodes and Tony Khan breakdown. Like, we don't really know exactly what happened aside from some theories. So overall, like I said, in the time and place of when it happened, it was incredible to watch the ending of that show, because you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then as it progressed, you're like, this kind of sucks, because nothing made sense. And then The Rock was nowhere to be found. And he's 50, I think he's like 52 now. So if we're going to ever get a last run with him, it's going to have to be, it's not going to be this year, because he hasn't been around at all. If they could build something maybe for Saudi Arabia, I've probably heard the same things you guys have. Like, there's talk of the Saudis throwing like, ridiculous money to have like him and Steve Austin headline WrestleMania next year. Like, and both guys are well into their 50s, which, I mean, they could do it. You can just have a brawl and do it, but it's like, is that really what today's fans want to see? I don't know.
I think if they do anything at next year Mania, it'll either be Cody and The Rock or Rock and Roman. It'll be one of those two. And if it's Rock Roman, I think that's where The Rock finally retires. And if Saudi Arabia is really willing to throw out $20 to $40 million for him to do it, he'll be willing to block that time off like a movie. So, it makes sense, because I could imagine, they're gonna next year's Mania, they're gonna pay whatever to get as many big stars, and that's why it makes sense for someone like Jericho, someone like a Steve Austin to come back for that. And I could see Steve Austin in like a six man tag, something like that would be interesting, and it would be fun, because just imagine, the reaction if it's like, Dom and a couple other people and Austin gets to stun him. I mean, people would love that. If you have the
Yeah.
right workers around him, Austin can make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of interesting moving parts for that next year's WrestleMania, with the Saudi money involved, and they, and especially if they're going to keep doing the 2-day thing. I mean, you could have so many old timers and legends mixed in with this current roster. I mean, it's good and bad. I think I do trust Triple H to probably keep it as calm as could be. I think has a good track record. I know people are down on him right now with how the product is, but overall, I think he's really done a good job. He booked NXT well. He kind of came up when Vince was in and out, and then back in again, and then out again. And I just think every year is different. Every time period's different. You're gonna have, especially with how prevalent, the product is now. Like everyone can access it at any time, at any point. You know, you have multiple outlets now, mainstream media reports on it. So it's harder to keep everybody happy. But I think if someone can do it, it's probably him. You know, I think he keeps a pretty good pulse on things, and you know, he tries to keep things as, you know, fluid as possible. So wants things to make sense. So I think if anybody can make a card like that work, it's probably him.
So when you close the book on Elimination Chamber, it almost feels like you just watched a blockbuster.
Rock Aura, Cena Legacy Energy, celebrity crossover moments. It was loud, it was global. It felt like the chamber had turned into an arena sized spectacle.
But here's the pivot. Now we get to Elimination Chamber, and the question isn't how big can we make this?
It's how important is this?
Because 2026 isn't about celebrity shine, it's about WrestleMania positioning, it's about who needs this win, it's about careers changing in one night inside that steel.
2025 was star power,
Twen-
26 is
Go ahead,
pressure.
read it again.
2025 was star power, 2026 is pressure.
So let's move from the fireworks and headlines to the stakes, the strategy, and who's walking into WrestleMania with momentum and who's walking in with excuses. Are we reading that Monday Night Raw situation? Before we dive into our picks for the Elimination Chamber 2026, we've got Monday Night Raw coming up. So there'll be an Elimination Chamber qualifying triple threat match on the men's and women's side. For the men, the triple threat is Jey Uso, Bronson Reed, and El Grande Americano. Now, who do you guys think will fit best into the chamber? Who's going to win this match?
I think it's going to be Bronson Reed. As much as Jey Uso's over, I think for the balance in the match, it'll be more impactful to have him, especially with no Braun Breaker. But there's a rumor going around that Brock Lesnar is going to be factored into this match at some point. So I could see someone like a Jey Uso or an El Grande Americano stealing it and maybe pulling an edge in Kofi Kingston.
Could be. I mean, I agree with Steve. I think Bronson is probably your pick. You had another big guy in there, you know, good base, and he can also do things off the top rope. So, you know, you got a versatile guy that can, you know, multitask in the ring there. And like I said, we'll see if we end up getting a Brock Lesnar involved.
Yeah, I think it's Bronson Reed to me. It's just makes sense. They've been pushing the vision for a while, and he's kind of been a bigger guy lately. Braun Breaker's out right now, so maybe that's why they've been featuring Bronson Reed a little bit more, but he just makes the most sense to me. El Grande Americano doesn't make sense at all. Jey Uso, I feel like they could put him anywhere because he's over and, you know, he'll perform, but Bronson Reed makes the most sense to me. On the women's side, the qualifying match features Io Sky, Kairi Sane, and Raquel Rodriguez. Why Kairi Sane? Why is she in that lineup?
She's a good worker.
And the whole storyline with the Kabuki Warriors and Io and Rhea.
Yeah.
Of these three women, who do you guys think it would be to be in the chamber? My pick's Raquel Rodriguez, but go ahead. What do you guys think?
I don't hate either one, actually. I mean, Raquel, like kind of going back to the men's, I mean, you get a good base for these girls to work off of. I mean, Io probably still one of the best women in the world. Kyrie, you could argue that as well. I mean, of the three, I'm good with either three of them, to be honest with you.
Storyline wise, I think Raquel winning would be the biggest curveball because then you could have Raquel hurrying up and saying, I'm challenging Stephanie. I almost had her before and I won her again, and Liv saying, hey, that's who I was picking. And that turns into a triple threat match instead of just a one-on-one match. And that frees up for, you know, maybe the Charlotte Jade match that they teased on SmackDown. So that would be interesting. Of course, Io could go in and do what Io does best, and that's be one of the best wrestlers, you know, in the world. And it would still be good. And you could have a storyline with her and Asuka. And, you know, maybe you get that showcase at WrestleMania, Io and Asuka. But also on SmackDown, before this before the Elimination Chamber, Io and Rhea defend the tag titles against Lash and Nia Jax. So I could see that title changing hands on SmackDown before the Chamber. And, you know, if Io is in, that could set up the Io and Rhea split. But a lot of different ways it could go and interesting storylines regardless, both ways.
Agreed.
I just think I like Raquel Rodriguez more and more the more I watch her. She's wrestling better, she's looking better, she sounds good on the mic, and it would be really fun to see her, win the chamber match, or not win it, but be in it anyways, win that three-way contendership match.
Yeah, she took that feedback from Kevin Nash and she's run with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good on her. Yeah.
So coming into the Elimination Chamber, we know that there's going to be a WWE Women's Intercontinental title match, Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee. Um, so I mean, the last time they fought was when it was the mixed tag team match, husband and wife versus husband and wife. AJ Lee looked good. She looked tired. It was her first match back. She hasn't really wrestled since then, right? Hasn't had a single match, I don't think. So what are your expectations for this match, Steven? What do you think's going to happen? Is she going to take that title off of Becky?
I mean, they're in Chicago. It's essentially her hometown, so it makes sense for her to win here. I could see them doing a swerve where, Becky jumps her or something before, or Natty jumps her before the match, and, they do something like that and then push it down to WrestleMania. But it could go both ways. But if you want the best reaction and to set up a little bit of a title run, then AJ's got to go over here.
Yeah, I think excuse me. I think AJ goes over here. I'd be shocked. I like Becky, but I mean, I really think that her forcing her to be herself to be a heel has kind of taken a lot of the luster off of her with the fans. Fans used to still get behind her as a heel, but now that she's kind of just flat out said, like, I don't want to be a baby face, and fans are like, well, you know what, then screw you, I guess. So we're not going to still cheer you, and then that's her prerogative. But I mean, I think AJ wins here. I think Triple H and Tony Khan, as different as they are as bookers, I think they have the same mind frame as if you got someone in their hometown, you're going to utilize that for some good reaction. So I think AJ probably wins here. And then we'll see what they do going into WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think Becky Lynch as a heel is ridiculous, and that's just how it's supposed to be. She's really doing it up, and I miss her as the badass, the man. I miss that Becky Lynch, the underdog that, got the two belts. I really liked Becky two belts that run, but she's doing a great job being a complete idiot. She's really taken that challenge and run with it. AJ Lee, I feel like I've already gotten a little bit bored with her. Like, her promos, I'm not into. But promos are hard for me attention wise. Like, you can ask Steve. They talk longer than like 5 minutes, and I'm like, well, what the hell are they still talking about? Like, I just can't, do a long promo. So then we have the match itself. So then we have the Women's Elimination Chamber match. We've got a few people in already. We have Asuka, Alexa Bliss, Rhea Ripley, Tiffany Stratton, and Kiana James. And then that winner of that three-way match tomorrow night will determine who the final person is in the chamber. So for WrestleMania purposes, I mean, who's going to pick up the win in this chamber match? Why isn't Charlotte in this? Charlotte's already picked her match for Mania.
No, she lost to Kiana James in a three-way. So how it ended was Charlotte had the figure 8 in, and Kiana James came from underneath her and got her in a crucifix pin and stole the win. So they are continuing the big push of Kiana James. And, that's why I compared in part 1, the Mandy Rose showcase to what I think they're doing with Kiana James here. And you can see you got a couple vets in Asuka and Alexa Bliss. You got someone current in Rhea Ripley, and you got two newer ones, Tiffany Stratton and Kiana James. So it's a little bit of everything, but I got Tiffy winning this. I could very easily see Tiffy and Jade running it back at WrestleMania. And I'm over Jade. She hasn't improved from that debut match that we all were praising with her and Cody against Shaq and Red Velvet. She's still the same person. I haven't seen the development in the ring or on the mic from Jade. She looks like a superhero, but that's where it stops with her.
Yeah, I mean, my personal pick would be either Rhea or Tiffany, just based on ability, and I think they're probably two of the most over. Rhea. Rhea's on another level actually. But in terms of the women, they're two of the most over women that they have on the roster. So I'd be happy with either of those two. I think you can get good matches either way. So those are my two choices.
I'm Team Rhea all day, every day. Love her. She's the best. I don't know if she's on my Mount Rushmore yet, though, because I didn't finish it, but I do. I love Rhea Ripley. I just think she's fantastic, and I just love how dark and spooky she is. I love that she's, tatted to the gills. She's strong. She's just very talented, and, I hope that she wins it. I didn't like she was the champ for a while. I don't think I like that she wasn't the champ anymore. And I always wish for bigger things for her. Especially, I'm glad that she's with Io Sky, but I wish that we could get that like epic 5-star Meltzer meltdown match between Rhea and Io. I think it would be so awesome. And I just don't know how we're ever going to get there. I mean, we will because WWE's done it all. So then for the men's chamber match, we have Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, LA Knight, yeah, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and then the winner of that three-way match on Monday night. And I do think that Bronson Reed would really round that out. You got, I guess, three vets. LA Knight's more recent, but I mean, he's been around. So, and then three new guys. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, I think there's no way Cody doesn't win this, right? He didn't win the Rumble, so he has to win this. Like he's got to have the WrestleMania moment. He's the head guy, he's the big one. So, Steve, what about you? What do you think about this match?
Yeah, I don't see anybody winning but Cody. It's nice that Javon Evans and Trick Williams are in this. The only way I could see it going differently is, maybe a Brock Lesnar, but there's rumors that it's LA Knight and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. So maybe that story, gets fulfilled. But I definitely think it's going to be Cody winning. I think there's going to be a lot of interference in this match with the Vision, with Drew McIntyre. I mean, throughout all the qualifying matches, Drew McIntyre's been involved. So we'll see how that plays out. There's a lot of different ways this could go. Jacob Fatu as well. He's not happy that he didn't win his qualifying match. So I see a lot of stuff going on, but Cody should be the winner in this. But it's a great opportunity if Javon and Trick are, definitely in this match because Trick is over and Javon is, I think, this generation's Jeff Hardy. He can grow into that special character that everybody loves all the time and is going to do some wild stuff. We've already gotten to see a little bit of that, so he's probably going to be perfect for the Elimination Chamber.
So where's Obafemi in all of this? I know that, they really featured him heavily in the Rumble, and I don't really know much about what's going on with him now. I know he's on the main roster, but why isn't he in this match?
He hasn't picked where he's signing yet, so he has offers from Raw and SmackDown, so
Mhm.
he's deciding where he's going to perform. I would imagine it's going to be Raw because that could also be another option for Brock Lesnar is Obafemi. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways it can go. There's a lot of potential in all of this. It's just you got to see how it plays out, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they don't do um, Brock and LA Knight, they could do Brock and Oba. And I think it's smart if they don't do Brock and Oba, leave him out of the picture until after Mania. Um, it's kind of bring guys in too early. I know he's technically main roster now, but if you don't have a clear path for him, leave him go for the Mania season, and then that's when you can kind of get them focused. You start right after WrestleMania. But in terms of that chamber match, I mean, I think Cody is kind of the guy, right? So I'd be shocked. I mean, you could always do Randy Orton. I mean, do I see that happening? No, but you could do that. I mean, he's established. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's what, 14, 15-time world champion. So, I mean, you can always insert Randy Orton into the title picture. So, but I think it's going to be Cody. I think that's kind of the story we talked about leading up to the Royal Rumble on our shows. It was, it's too soon to have Cody win a third Rumble, so make him get through the chamber. I think that's the story they probably want to tell here. Yeah, I mean, I think Cody wins probably a hard fought, chamber match. I'll tell you what, this could be a good one. they have the bodies in there to have a really, really strong chamber. They can do some good spots. They can tell some good stories. So we'll see. Hopefully it turns out to be a good one.
I feel like in terms of our anticipation for WrestleMania this year, we talk more about next year. So I think, this year it doesn't seem like it's shaping up to be exciting, I think it's like everything we talk about, you guys mentioned, it's building towards next year's Mania, not this year. I agree with what you said about Obafemi. Like, it would be cool, yeah, if they did take a pause on him just to get through Mania season. They already do have a lot of guys, and then like he could come back the night after Mania on Monday Night Raw and debut as like that's the one that he picked, he signed, and like, I don't know,
Yeah.
like win the title or something. Do something like, who was it? Finn Balor, that was his first match in Raw. He won the title and then he had to like relinquish it immediately because he got injured or something. Was that him?
Was
Yep.
Universal
Yeah.
title. That was on a pay-per-view though, but yeah.
I mean,
SummerSlam.
they could have
Yeah.
done they could do something like that with Obafemi, or not even give him a title shot, but just like debut him in a way that really stands out, because it is that Monday night after Raw, and then set him up for his own, run of something on Raw. But I think Raw would be a good show for him to be on. The last match of the card is going to be the WWE World Heavyweight title match between CM Punk and Finn Balor. I feel like it's really exciting to see Finn Balor get a title shot here. I mean, we were watching the chamber match, from 2018, and I feel like he hasn't had many title shots since he dropped the title, and he's an incredible wrestler. I mean, he was the one that founded the Bullet Club, right? In New
Yep.
Japan. And like, we haven't really, I don't know, I miss Finn Balor, the Finn Balor of old, like when he first debuted in WWE. And then I think it's really exciting that, he gets a shot. I don't think he's going to win it, but, it's about time.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to win either. It's a nice showcase for him. I think if anything, this could further the storyline of the dissension in the Judgment Day and eventually lead to Balor going his own way, maybe setting up a triple threat match at Mania with Dom, JD, and Finn for the Intercontinental title. That would be something different, interesting. Maybe Dom and Liv just go their own way, just them two, true romance style, just them, being wild and crazy on Raw every week. But yeah, Punk and Roman, it's set. It's the only match set for WrestleMania. That's part of the reason I think why, they're not happy with WrestleMania ticket sales is nobody wants to pay astronomical prices and not know any of the card. You got one match booked for, 2 nights and they've already sold like 36,000 tickets, but not many more people are going to be beating down the door without knowing what the card is. So, it's got to play out and it's got to start building soon because April's coming quick.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be shocked if Finn won here. I mean, if there's ever a time to do a little quick switch, you could do it here. I don't see it, but you could add that little extra. Oh, it's a triple threat now. You could do that. Finn's been around long enough. He's established well enough. You could do that, but no, I agree, Steve. I think Punk and Roman is your night two main event at WrestleMania, and we did talk about this, in the past. Like they used to just sell out WrestleMania on the name, and now it's like, well, you know what? The fans are not really at that point anymore. They want to see a little bit more than just a name of WrestleMania. So, especially when you want them to spend, you know, thousands of dollars on tickets and hotels and flights and everything in between. So, hopefully within, what is it, Saturday, this coming, we got the pay-per-view, so, or Sunday, whichever night it is. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we start to get some sort of card and hopefully they can kind of get some advertising out there and the card takes shape and we get some information on what's happening because like I said, people want to know what's going on and they need to give them a card. Like Steve said, we need a card, we need some people, we need some names, we need some storyline advancement here and see what's going on. So let's hope we get that this weekend.
I hope So, any closing thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, I mean, I
Wow.
think we've touched on a lot of it. I think for the first time in a long time, there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of up in the air about the WWE Wrestlemania card. Normally, by this time, we have a good idea of where things are going, but with the AAA influence, with the TNA partnerships, the retirements, the non-retirements, a lot of people looking forward to next year. You don't really know what's going on. So it gives WWE the ability to mix it up and, do something different and, build a decent card. It also makes you wonder with the new TKO era, 2 nights of WrestleMania, how many matches are there really going to be? Because it's WrestleMania, are we going to get the normal, 6 to 7 matches, or are we still sticking to each night's going to be like 4 matches? So it's going to be interesting to see, what the celebrity influence is like, what the UFC influence is going to be like, and, lot of lot of unanswered stuff that you're just gonna have to watch and play out.
Yeah, I think I agree, Steve. I mean, the main thing right now is we need a card. They need to just get through this weekend. But if they don't have anything in concrete plans in terms of like something they want to announce, they got to do it by Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown. Like we need, hey, here's like 4 or 5 matches. We need matches. We need to know the direction, because you need time, obviously, to build things, but you can have stuff set in stone at the same time. So, like we've talked about, there's the one match that we kind of all were like, oh, are they going to do this at WrestleMania? Like the mask versus mask, the Grandes, that seems like one that they're building to, but like we've seen in the past, they may just ignore it and then blow it off. So hopefully they don't go that route. I hope we come out of the pay-per-view this weekend and we have some ideas, and come Raw and SmackDown, we get some matches. And like you said, we have the partnerships, you have NXT. I mean, you have a lot of options here to throw some stuff on the card. You got 2 nights, you're probably looking at 3 to 4 hours each night. So there's plenty of time and opportunity to fill that card up. So let's hope they get the ball rolling this coming out of this weekend.
Agreed. That's a wrap on a loaded triple threat activated episode of Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling. We went from the brutality experiment of Survivor Series to the history making moment at Elimination Chamber to the absolute spectacle that was Elimination Chamber, Rock, Cena, celebrities, chaos. And then we set the table for this Sunday's Elimination Chamber.
That's eras, that's evolution, that's legacy talk.
And when Joe comes back, you already know what happens. The takes get louder, the predictions get riskier, and somebody on this show is absolutely getting receipts pulled after Sunday.
If you rocked with this episode, make sure you subscribe to wherever you get your podcast. Drop us a review, hit us on social, let us know.
You can
What's the
catch us.
greatest chamber of all time?
Just kidding.
Oh, start over. What's the greatest chamber of all time? 2002, 2018, 2025.
And read the next one too.
And who's walking out of 2026 with their WrestleMania ticket punched?
For Mrs. Wrestling,
Mr. Wrestling,
the pods are locked, the takes are sealed, and we'll see you after the chamber. You can catch us on Instagram at Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling Pod. Same thing for the YouTube at Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling Pod. If you have hot takes, leave them in the comments. Give us a like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. The end.
You came for the takes and we've got 'em. Let's lock up and kick things off.